You live, Barbara? I can go.
No, not yet. Not yet. It takes a little bit to upload it to YouTube. And then I'll need confirmation from my communications person that we are actually up.
Live, Barbara? I can go.
Not yet. Not yet. It takes a little bit. Okay, ready to go.
The time is 5:08. As the chairman of the committee, I would like to call this meeting to order. My name is Julian Walters. I am a James Madison Memorial alumni, class of 2013. I currently work with the Urban League of Greater Madison. I'm also a realtor within Dane County. Not born, but raised Madisonian, been there my whole life. Very connected with the community, very passionate about the community. At this time, I would like each committee member to kind of go around and just kind of say your background, your ties to Memorial, and anything else you would like to share. Instead of having one all go at once and we get a lag in the system, I'll just call the names in order of participants that I see. So with that being said, I would like to start with Jackie.
My name's Jackie Woodruff, and I am a class of 83 graduate. My sister went there, both of my nieces went there, and my twin sons graduated in 2017.
Thank you for sharing with us, Jackie. Next, we have Cynthia Kump. Correct me if I say anyone's name wrong, I want to get it right.
Oh, you got it right.
All right,
Thank you.
let me know
Yeah.
earlier.
Julia, nice to meet you, and thank you for chairing this committee. It's very much appreciated. And as a fellow JMM alum, I have to say, go Spartans.
Yeah.
So I am a class of 1990 graduate from Memorial. My older sister graduated in 87. My little brother graduated 14 years after I did. My mother was very involved at Memorial teaching and with the theater department. And my late father was a guidance counselor at Memorial and very involved in sports and coaching, as were all of us kids, comp kids, and are really proud of many of the things about Memorial. And I'm happy to be here to have this conversation.
Thank you for that. It's nice to meet you. And I'm sure we'll have some sparring things to talk about. I got some family that graduated. I think my sister graduated and around the time you graduated, but I digress. We'll get there. Next, we have Amber Jansen.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Yeah, Amber Jansen. I'm on staff at Memorial High School. I just finished my 9th year teaching there. And I teach both AP World and AP US history. I coach girls basketball and softball. And so while I'm not a grad, Memorial is definitely deeply a part of who I am. And I'm thankful to be a part of this process. That's also how I know Eliana. Eliana has been a student 2 years in a row with me. So that is another connection I have to one other person here.
Perfect. And one of the connections we have together is I took AP World when I was at James Madison Memorial High School. I was feeling a little ambitious, but I dropped it. So I didn't make it all the way through. I wasn't one of those.
You wouldn't have if I had you, but
I had Levenberg. I don't know if he's still there. I had Levenberg. And my focus was elsewhere. So with that, we'll talk about that later. Next, we have Ron Jordan.
Hello, I'm Ron Jordan. Thank you. You pronounced my name correctly, so you win. My connection to Madison Memorial is my son Gio just started there as a freshman, which was a weird freshman year, special needs student. So got to watch how all the special needs teachers do school virtually, and they need a pay raise. So that's my connection to Memorial. Presently, my 12-year-old Benicio will more than likely be going there in a few years, and I'm glad that I'm on this committee.
Nice to meet you, Ryan. Thanks for that compliment. Good to have you. Great to have you. Next, we have Rosemary Rosemary, can you tell me how to say your last name, please?
Of course. So in English, it's Barrientos Irigoyen, and in Spanish, it's Barrientos Irigoyen. Your choice. No, you can just call me Rosemary.
Okay,
Nice to meet you all. Nice to see you all. I am a staff. I'm a school social worker at Memorial. I've been there for 25 years. And I am also, well, my family immigrated from Bolivia, but I was born and raised here in Madison, so I have a lot of ties to the community. I graduated from West, but of course, my second home is Memorial, and that's my, this is why I'm here. Yeah, so, yeah, what else? That's it. Just really interested and happy to be a part of the committee.
Perfect. We're happy to have you, Rosemary. Thank you for saving me, giving me grace and just only being able to call you by Rosemary.
No problem.
Next, we have Eliana Sawyer.
Yeah, I'm Eliana Sauer. You were close. I am a current student at Memorial. I'm a rising senior, and I've been there all 4 years, and I went through Madison Public Schools for my entire school career. I also have a younger brother who will be coming to Memorial as a freshman in 2 years, so I have some vested interest. I'm a member of the forensics team, and I participate in drama and also the Sword and Shield newspaper. So I kind of get to experience a lot of the different parts of Memorial, and I'm really excited to be a part of this committee.
Perfect. We're so happy to have you. Thanks for that. And I think it'll be super cool to have an actual student and member perspective for someone who's actually attending Madison Memorial right now as a part of this committee. Next, we have Sean Matson.
Hi, everyone. My name is Sean Matson. I'm an English, history, and ESL teacher at La Follette High School. I'm also a proud member of Madison Teachers Incorporated. I live here in the city of Madison with my wife. Very interested in local history as a historian and engaged in a number of areas of political and social activism in our community. And I'm just looking forward to learning and to further dialogue with all of you, with our community, and especially the youth in our community. Thank you.
It's great to have you, Sean. Next, we have Lynn Mormino.
Julian, can you hear me? Julian,
I can hear you.
It's good to see you. I have nothing but peaceful and just professional vibes from you, even as a student. So I just can't believe how much time has passed already. That's just crazy. I got another gray hair just listening to you start the meeting. But I am not from the Madison area originally. I grew up in the Chicago area. I just drove back like 5 minutes ago from there to see some old childhood friends, as a matter of fact. I did go to college in Madison, met my wife who went to West, graduated 87, and came back, moved here in 2000. I worked, been a community counselor for 27 years, but I've been in our district for 20 years, 21. I worked at West from 2000 to 2010, Memorial 2010 to the present. Strangely, my high school in the Chicago area was green and gold Spartans instead of green and white, and laid out much like Memorial. No other similarities after that. Memorial, though, has become my home. And to bring some skin into the game, I have open enrolled my 2 rising juniors from Middleton to finish at Memorial their junior and senior year. I have heard from many students over the years working at Memorial that they have opinions about the name, And so I found it, opportune and it made sense to me to be invited to be a part of this, contribute however I can. And yeah, thanks for your leadership, Julian, and good to see some familiar faces here. And I know if you wanted me to text Copper, I can. I'm an avid counselor. Copper was my student. I can certainly text her and see if she has it on her radar, if you want.
Yeah. Well, first off, it's good to see you and it's good to have you. You also being in Memorial every day will provide a good perspective and insight that some of us don't have, which is great. And that's one thing that I'm hearing in this committee, that we have a lot of diversity and different points of contact with Memorial that'll help for good dialogue and just moving this train forward. So it's good to see you. Next, we have Matthew Bronegan.
Yeah. No, thanks for having me here. Excited to be here. I grew up, born, and raised here in Madison. Went to Memorial class of 03. Yeah. And my sister in 99. That was her class as well. A lot of deep ties actually in Madison, and particularly around Madison education in a lot of ways. My dad, when he was the CEO of the Urban League years ago, helped get Wright Middle School off the ground. My mom was a school social worker out in Verona for 30 years and now teaches at UW-Madison, social workers there. And she's like born a social worker. So definitely, really, even in my own ways, in my own past involved in schools and public schools. Here in Madison, I've been much more involved in police reform efforts and pretty central in that. And currently do odd things here and there around the Madison community, being some people's pains in the butt, others not, and carrying out my family legacy and doing that.
Love to have you, Matthew. It's good. One connection I have with you is I actually went to James C. Wright Middle School, so I'll thank your dad for getting that off the ground, because great memories there, right? But all in all, we're happy to have you and value your input and your contribution to this committee. And I think the last committee member we have is Mr. Frank Linott.
Very good, Julian. Howdy, folks. My connection to Memorial is our four boys who graduated over the years. Let's see, 2001, 2004, 2011, and 2013. I actually did student teaching at Memorial back in the mid 80s with Jim Hine and Danny Hansen. Taught for a little while and but ended up in biotechnology and where I currently am. So I'm eager to work with the team here to come up with some proposals for the board. So good to meet everyone.
Perfect. Thanks for having. Thanks for coming. We're happy to have you, Frank. I think for everyone, that wraps up committee members. We do have some special guests who are on this call with us. I want to start with Barbara Osborne, who's the secretary of the Board of Education here. She's been phenomenal. She's helped. She's gonna assist us throughout this journey. You guys have gotten some communications from her. Marvin also is a member, faculty from the school board, and Gail as well. If you guys want to say anything, introduce yourself, your official title. I might have botched it or left something out. Feel free to do so at this time.
Good afternoon, everyone. Good evening, everyone. Marvin Pryor, Chief Academic Officer for MMSD, and I just cannot express how super excited I am to see the diversity, the diverse backgrounds that we have here. I think we have a wonderful team here, and I'd be remiss if I didn't say to Julian, thank you so much for volunteering to take on this important work. I can tell right now that you're going to be super, super in this role, and I'm excited to play a little part in this representing the district. And so I'm only here to kind of listen in, and if there are any technical issues, hopefully I can lend some clarity in regards to those areas. So again, thanks to everyone up front for your role in this process. Thank you. And I do apologize that I am actually driving right now, but I'll be stationary in about 10 minutes. And so thank you.
Happy to have you, Marvin, and thank you for those kind words. Next, Gail, do you want to say anything?
Gail, your mic is muted.
My apologies. I've been doing the research for the names, and I'm St. Paul, Minnesota, and Des Moines, Iowa, but I have had 4 children at Memorial High School from 1996 to 2009. The first one, Zoe Martinson, got her degree in 2000, and the other 3, Kit, Che, and Marnie, got either GEDs or HSEDs. So I guess they're still kind of affiliated with Memorial through getting that. But so a long time with Memorial with the 4 kids.
Perfect, thank you. And we appreciate your research and your contributions to this process too, Gail.
Thank you.
We'll hear from Gail later on about some of the things from board docs. She'll speak and elaborate on that. And then Barbara, do you want to say something before I kind of?
Yeah, just yes, thank you so much. Welcome everybody. I know a few of you, and I certainly have heard about a lot of you. I've been the board secretary for 27 years. I've been through a few renaming, so I'm technical support. So whatever you need, and just let me know. I've given you my contact information, so happy to be here, and thank you for being here.
Yeah, Barbara's gonna LeBron James this thing for us. I don't know if you guys watch basketball, or maybe Giannis. We probably got some Bucks fans in here, but she's gonna take us home. But before we
Go Suns.
go Suns, let's stop there before we already cause friction within our group. But before we continue, I kind of want to talk about the feel and the way I think that the committee should work, and what the agenda is for today. So for today, we're not going to actually evaluate any proposals or go in depth about moving things forward. Today's more of a processes kind of thing. We're going to kind of discuss meeting times, look through the rubric and the flow charts and how we're going to do things, more so than actually doing them today, get acquainted with each other, introduce each other, and things of that nature. And also, before we continue, I just want to kind of let people know that there's a lot of professionals on this call. We got students on this call, people who are actually doing things outside of this role. This role is very important. It'll have a lot of attention from the community, not just the Memorial community, but Madison in general. It will be work, but I intend to make it as easy as possible. I know that it's the evening. If people want to jump on a call and, you know, if you have a snack you want to snack on, if it's something, water or a pop you want to drink, feel free to do so. I want it to be very comfortable because people have already had their day at the time that we'll meet. So I don't want people to feel like it's just one other thing they have to do, but something that, you know, they're doing to serve their community, but also make sure that they're comfortable doing it, especially being conscious of the evening hours that it is. So with that being said, welcome everyone. It's great to hear from everyone. Great to meet everyone face to face. I know this has been a process. Some people had not had any communications for a while there. But there have been things that we were working on behind the scenes in preparation for all of this. And now we're here, and this is just day one, but we will complete this thing, and it'll be cool to have been a part of this thing with you guys. So with that being said, I think Barbara's going to share her screen, and we're just going to kind of talk through some of the things. Feel free to interject if you have any questions. There's no rush. I know some of you guys might have saw that it was from 5 to 8:30. There's no way that this will go for 3.5 hours. That was just a semantics thing because we didn't want to get cut off from Zoom, but we want to be conscious of people's times and you know, the things that they've done prior to the committee and their life outside of it. So Barbara's put, did everyone access board docs okay? Was everyone able to get on board docs and look through some of the material?
Great,
Okay,
that was my first question. Wonderful, thank you.
Great. Seems like I'm getting a lot of answers, so that's good. And
Um,
go ahead, Barbara.
Well, go ahead, I'm sorry. Can
I was
everybody?
gonna make sure everyone can see the screen all right.
Yes. I
So
am
Barbara,
currently on the board docs landing page. Are you seeing that?
yes,
Okay, very good. I'm gonna click on the Citizens Ad Hoc Committee and we're gonna go to the agenda.
perfect.
Okay. So we've already taken care of the introductions. Thank you very much. We're on item 2, overview of the initial proposal, ad hoc committee's charge and board policy 6700 and the timeline. I just want to go briefly through this. I'm hoping that many of you have already been able to look at the documents. So I'm just going to go through one by one kind of rapidly and let me know if you have any questions of me or Julian. Maya Berry's statement is here for everyone's reference. It'll also be here for the record. She's the person that came to the board last August. And that proposal that she prepared was added to this committee and accepted by the board in March of this year. I'm not going to read through this, but I wanted everyone to know that that is where the process started. And Maya Berry is a former student at Memorial as well. She's not able to be a member of the committee because she did propose something formally. So her proposal will be considered along with the others as well. And that would have proposed a conflict of interest for her had she been on the committee. So I just wanted to clarify that. The charge to the committee, quite simple. As I stated, the statement from Maya Berry was accepted by the Board of Education on March 22nd, 21. That started our timeline. 30 days later, or a little bit over 30 days later, the Citizens Naming Committee was created by the Board of Education. And that process has already taken place, as you know, and the charge is simply to follow board policy 6700 and move the proposal through the school renaming process. We're asking that then once the committee comes to a conclusion about the recommendation and or recommendations that they want to make, that will then flow into the Board of Education work group meeting and then also to a regular meeting for them to make the final decision. The next document is board policy 6700. This is what the committee is working under. So you will see a great deal of these words in many of the documents that we have included in board docs for you. But overall, the procedure is laid out here for Memorial, which is an existing building. The role of the superintendent, the role of the board, and the role of the Citizens Renaming Committee are all spelled out here. And as much of the timeline as is needed is followed from board policy. I did do a draft of this timeline. I will say that some of this stuff has already happened, as you know, because when we got the initial proposal, that started the process. So that was officially on March 22nd. The board officers and the superintendent then determined when they would take up the renaming, because at this time we are asking school communities to only work through 2 renamings in a school year because they're kind of a labor intensive process and you know, needs community involvement. So that is what we've determined to be the most that we can take on in any school year. So that initial first 30-day period began then in March and ended on April 23rd. And we took comments from the public and proposals during that time. All the proposals were then made public as of April 26th. And public comments were again sought after that time. So the comments have really been open from day one. But we did stop the proposals request after the 30 days. The committee was appointed and you have now called your first meeting, and we are beginning the citizens renaming role here tonight. So the timeline from here will be determined by you, the committee. So there is no end date here. We are just following the rest of the process through the timeline. So as far as item number 2 here, unless there are any specific questions about these items, I think we can move on to item number 3. I think I'm going to keep board docs up here for a while, just to make sure that everybody's able to follow along. I do want to describe for the public as well as the committee members here the documents that we have, because there's a great deal of information here. So just want to again review this pretty quickly. Again, the role of the committee and the proposal criteria is the first document here. This language is taken directly from the policy. Without going into this line by line, I don't know that we need to do that at this point. I just wanted it here for your reference for right now, but we will get into the nitty gritty of the proposal criteria shortly again in this agenda. Also here is a flow chart that was created for this process some time ago, and this has also been on the website for a great deal of time to let the community know what this process is about, and just a cool graphic about what happens at every stage of the process. Also for your reference. This document here is called the rubric. This is what we ask each committee member to use in order to determine if a proposal is meeting each part of the criteria. It's a pretty simple rubric. There are not a lot of criteria involved, but this is the document that we will ask each committee member to fill out for each of the proposals, so that we can then begin to narrow down and discuss each of the proposals.
And can you leave this up for just a second?
Yes.
Barbara? This is going to be very essential to what we do. I think there's about 77 proposals, so it will be a little bit of work. There will be repeated names that have been proposed that we'll have to create these sheets for too at this time, but it'll all make sense at the end once we push names through, because they have to clear these proposals and this criteria to even be moved on to the next process and eventually get closer to that opportunity to be submitted before the board. So this will be a very important document. What I would suggest is maybe at some point, when we decide when our next meeting will be or how we continue to move, print a couple of these out as need be. We'll kind of break up the proposals in increments, as homework, so to speak, and and then as we figure out that number, print out these sheets and have these, and as we move forward to different meetings, kind of have these these criteria sheets handy so that you can reference them.
Thank you, Julian. So then we get into the actual proposals. There is a spreadsheet that I have here that I will share with you shortly, but some of the people who submitted proposals submitted separate documents as well. And so those are also here for your reference as we move through the proposals. That's why there are a lot of documents here, just because some people filled out the information on the website. Some people chose not to go that route, but did it through the board email. Everything that's come in through the board email is now part of this process. It has been moved here. So that's why there's a lot of documents here.
All right.
I do
and
have.
There'll also be a separate document apart from the comments. And, Barbara did a pretty good job of explaining it. These are just the way they were submitted. These aren't meant to take any separate precedence over the other proposal. It was just the way they came in and were formatted. So they're to be evaluated with the same equity as the other ones.
Yes, thank you for that. No editing has been done. No duplicates have been taken out. It's totally for the committee members to decide what they want to do as far as processing these. And I just want
one quick question. Is it
Yeah.
safe to assume that when we are discussing these names individually, that we will take a look at those documents that were submitted at the same time?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And another quick question, Julian, you mentioned there were roughly 70 proposals. Are those 70 in that sheet that Barbara just showed? The PDF?
If she'll flip over to an Excel sheet,
Okay.
Yes, I'll
and
show that to you next.
they'll be broken down into each kind of segment of the criteria sheet of the rubric, and it will be pretty seamless and easy for you to kind of follow the spreadsheet and fill out the rubrics as you go through each proposal.
All right, thank you.
I did want to just show you that there are actually 26 names, but there were 70 some proposals. Yes, so obviously there's some duplication there. But each proposal will have to be evaluated on its own merit, and each one taken out or kept in as the committee decides. So these are the names, and for the community, I just wanted them to be able to see the actual names. And this is also on the website. So yes, the very next document is the magic document. That is the one with all of the proposals. So it's laid out to show the person who submitted the proposal, and the questions across the top of the document follow exactly the criteria that is required from board policy. So everyone was asked to fill out all of those that were relevant to their proposal. Okay. So it just goes across, it's just an Excel spreadsheet. It goes from left to right. All of them are here as they were submitted. And so as you can see, the very first two are proposing the same exact name, but each proposal will have to be evaluated on its own merits, and then we will narrow them down from there. So I realize that, yes, you're going to have to be able to view this document on a computer and get it to the size that you need it to be able to see it well. But all of these are PDF files. They can all be searched on, and they can all be sized to whatever you need, but it does go straight across. And yes, there are, all of the proposals are here. I believe this document is, yes, about 7 pages long. So I'm just scrolling through it quickly. But
Would
yeah.
Say, Barbara, would it be possible to put this in a landscape format just to maybe increase the font a little bit?
It is in landscape format now.
Oh, it is. Okay.
Yes, and it's also probably 8.5, it might be 11 by 17 as
Okay.
a full document.
Thank
So,
you.
yeah, it's kind of a thing that you have to scroll around to view it well. You can print it, and I could print it for people that really want a printed copy of this. I'm happy to do that. So people can just let me know if they want me to do that via email, and then I'd have to send it to you to your mailing address. But if you want that, I'm happy to do that because of the importance of this document. I'm happy to do that. Okay. That is pretty much the item number 3 on the agenda. As Julian explained, this meeting is not intended to actually get into reviewing the proposals yet tonight. It's really just to talk about the process and a little bit more about the documents, the other documents that we have for you. So if there are no more questions on this item, I'd like to move to item 4. Okay, and we can come back to things if you have questions as they come along.
So this
Go ahead, Julian.
item 4 is interesting because it's not something that we actually have to evaluate or, kind of break down into our submissions of our proposals, but it's something to be cognizant and aware of. This is the comments page that's been, the comments that have been submitted once this became public knowledge on the MMSD page. There's about 800 comments since the first listed date, and they consist of a range of emotions. Some of them are negative, some of them are in favor of the name change, some of them are nasty, but that kind of lets you know how big of a deal this is, how important it is to some people, and kind of the duty that you have in being on this committee. Us as members, as we dialogue and talk through things, will come across disagreements, and we all probably have feelings of what we want the school to be named, or if we wanted to, if that we want the name change or how we feel about it. But for sure, we'll go about it in a respectful manner, and we'll come to a conclusion that we all agree upon. But this comment section is good to just kind of read through on your own time, so you can understand the impact of this decision and what it means to the Madison community, not just Madison Memorial, but the city as a whole. And I know if she scrolled through, there's 88 pages, so I don't think we're going to scroll through all of them, and we're not going to read any of them. But there's a lot of comments, and people are very interested and invested in this process. So, like I said in the beginning, I would like to welcome you all here. It's not work by any means, but there will be work that needs to be done.
Do you have a rubric, Julian, at all to log or evaluate public comments as they come in, recognizing common themes to help us guide in a decision?
Yeah, so there's not actually a rubric to, to put the comments through. It's more so just for us to be conscious and aware of, because the comments are how people feel, but they're not actually official proposals. So it's good to know how the public is feeling about it. And there'll probably be people who commented and submitted proposals, which is great, but the comments alone aren't really valid enough for us to make our decisions off of. It's just good to know. It's just good added information.
I do want to supplement that, Julian, thank you. I do want to let you know, Cynthia, that we are planning to do kind of an infographic on the comments.
Thank
That
you.
isn't ready yet for today, and we kind of want to get into this process a little bit before we hand that over. So yes, that is coming. It's not going to be a super analysis, but it is going to give you a good idea about the general themes as you suggested.
Great.
And from this point on, then we will only give you new comments. We will not give you the whole 800 documents. We'll just, we'll go from each meeting and give you the updated draft. Okay.
That's amazing. Thank you.
Thank you.
So you are still accepting public comment on any of the names from now until the time we finish?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay.
Okay. Julian, are you ready for item 5?
Yeah, I'm ready. Does anyone have any other questions? Are we ready to move forward?
Just another quick question. This group will come up with a proposal of some number of names that come from the proposals only. No new names added, just those that have been proposed.
Correct. So out of those 26 names, we will propose to the board. So what happens is there's a cap of 4. You know, if we all were on the same page and we proposed one name to the board, then obviously everyone knows what happens with that. If we're at odds and we're at disagreements and we can't come up on one name, what we'll do is submit up to 4 names from that list of 26, and then the board will select from that list. But we have to go through and vet these proposals and match them with the criteria to come to that list and delegate so that we can get to that number.
Thanks for the clarification, Julian.
No problem.
Julian, I have a quick question as well. We can also not change the name, correct?
Correct.
Okay, I just wanted to know if that was an option, because reading it on there, it didn't look like that was an option. It looked like we had to make a decision based on proposals.
Yeah, I think James Madison Memorial, like the name that it is actually on the list of proposed names.
Oh, okay. Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Excellent. Item 5, review of research. If I could get Gail to come back on. As you can see, the link is right in the document in board docs, so I'm going to pull that up now. Gail, if you are on, I'd like to see your video. And then, yes, go ahead and explain your research, please.
Okay. So interestingly enough, there's probably more documents for some of the ones that have a little bit more of a Wisconsin connection, because it's not so easy to find aggregate information on them. And then the ones that are truly nationally famous, it was kind of easier to do that. What I tried to do is get a mix of perspectives. So I tried to get perspective from the NAACP, for example, for some of them, and trying to get a mix of different perspectives. In many cases, it's the same kind of information, but there might be a few differences in terms of what they chose to bring out or highlight. I'm certainly open to looking up as you go along. If some people have questions that they want to see if I can find more information on, I'd be glad to do that. I also tried to bring up, when I found them, controversies, so that and I may not have been successful on all of those, but I did, when I found something, I did try to bring out and explore a little bit in detail when there was a controversy with an individual. Otherwise, I think that's it. Oh, each one does have at least one Word document where there are either discussion, there's links to books, there's links to more of the
Can we click in?
exhibit.
Okay, yeah, there it is. I was gonna say, can we click in one so we can kind of talk in so they can see what you're, put a visual to it? Perfect.
Okay. So there is a Word document. You might want to start with the Word document when you find it, but it'll give, you know, like if there's an exhibit, there's a lot of links to that exhibit, then it's not possible to put those as PDF documents. I will apologize that in transferring some of the PDF documents, you know, the way that works is with some news articles, you lose the top couple of sentences, but there's not a whole lot of, there's not much I could do about that unless somebody has more of a tech sense than I do.
No need to apologize. We appreciate your efforts. You did a lot of great work, and this is beautiful. This will help a lot for people to kind of understand the context of some of these people and who they are, if they weren't familiar with them prior to. So we definitely thank you for your contributions, Gail.
Thank you. I learned a lot too.
Yeah, I'm looking at some of these names. I'm interested to get into some of these files.
I personally want to thank Gail very much for the work that she did. This was incredibly thorough and easy to use. And the committee is very lucky to have such a resource. We have not had this until we met Gail, and I have to tell you that she's really upped the game on this. So thank you very much, Gail. Personally, it's really been a pleasure working with you, and I'm glad we have you on the team. Thank you.
Yes, so
Thanks, Gail.
I'm glad to be here too.
Okay, and then so that is the extent of the materials that I intended to show to the committee. Now,
Before we get into discussion, is everyone
yes.
clear? Do we have any questions of any of the material that was presented, or does anyone have any problems accessing it? If you do, if you don't, you know, we can just stay silent and we'll move forward. But if you do, you know, ask your questions and address it now.
I just have one point of clarification. I noticed in the list of the research, in fact, the first folder, there's a folder for DEJOP, and I saw it in the public comments, but I don't see that name listed on the list of the 26 proposed names. So I'm wondering how we're gonna handle that specific suggestion.
I can address that. Originally, I had seen the DEJOP as part of the proposed names. In talking to Barb when they came out with the list, I had mentioned that it wasn't on the list, and she said that it had not fulfilled some of the proposed requirements. I wasn't sure, I couldn't find it again because I had the massive Word, the document, but she said that the committee would be able, if you wanted to, to include that. And so I went ahead and did research on that. So that's, it's an option, but so the research is there. And if the committee would like to, Barb can go back and find where that was in the vast amount of proposals that came in. A lot of them were comments, you know, too. So, but that would be your committee's decision, what you wanted to do with that.
Thank you
Can
so
I
much.
ask a follow-up question on that? I have some questions as to what decisions were made prior to the committee in terms of, like you said, they said it didn't meet the requirement, because some of the names that I'm looking at, I didn't think met the requirements. And frankly, some of the submissions, like Gail just said, were comments. Some of the submissions definitely are not there. I know of one in particular that was done with a change.org petition, and it does not seem to be listed in any of the documentation, which I guess I'm wondering if it was removed or what happened.
Okay, none of the documents have been edited, Jackie. Nothing has been taken out. As far as if it's not there, I would ask you to please forward that to me, or give it to me in whatever way that you saw it. Everything that was submitted on the website is here. Anything that came into the board at Madison email address was also transferred over to here. So if there is something that is missing, I would have to see that and then go back and see how it was submitted.
Okay, I'll catch up with you tomorrow then.
Right, thank you. Yes, we definitely want to make sure we have everything in the basket. So yes, let me know.
Thank you for that. So this next part is more of the discussion based. Like I said, we want to kind of figure out and take everyone's opinion on how to make this thing comfortable and best fit for committee members. So I'll kind of read these out and talk to you about where we are and open it up for, suggestions or any types of way that, people think that we should change this to benefit the committee as a whole. The first one is decide on the methodology of reviewing each proposal. And kind of what we got from that was, we have the criteria, we have the proposals. I was thinking that, at the end, we decide how much of each, how many proposals or how many sheets of paper do we think is actually accurate or realistic to go through, considering everyone's time before the next meeting. But of course, we have to talk about meeting schedule and things like that. But if people thought another way was more effective, we could do that. But we do have to use that rubric kind of to vet the proposals. And that's kind of what we have right now. Also with the infographic of what the public's kind of climate is in regards to the name change, using those two things collectively to vet the proposals and move things forward is kind of where we're at right now. If anyone has any kind of alterations or other suggestions, we can speak about that at this time.
I'm good with it. I think, Julian, if we could determine a meeting cadence.
Yep.
I think that would help, to your point, determine how much we can bite off between meetings in terms of evaluation.
Okay. Barbara, can you go back to the screen?
Yes.
I don't know if it was just mine, but I'm not. Yeah. Secondly, we have narrowed down to proposals to eliminate duplicates. So kind of like I was saying, I'm gonna have to go through each one and we'll have to pick a proposal to move forward for the name. Even though there'll be multiple proposals for each name, there'll only be one proposal that we move forward as we go through this process. And that'll probably be one that matches all the criteria or best fits all the criteria that we evaluated through. We'll also have to decide kind of how we feel about what we ultimately want to bring to the board. And what I mean by that is, I kind of spoke when Frank asked that question, we can submit one as a group and work towards that and gear this train towards that direction. But also if we think that a list of 26 is too much to have one, and we read the comments and we go through the proposals and think that we should submit multiple, we can do that too, but we'll just have to come up with kind of a structure. And I know things change from day one through completion. And so this isn't anything that has to be concrete, set in stone. It's just something that I want people to think about and be conscious of as we move through this. But 4 is our cap off. That's how many we can propose to the board if there was not a name that we all agreed on. And so getting to how we eliminate those will have to be something that we discuss and come across as we move forward. So this really isn't something that you have to answer right now, or we have to come across or agree upon right now, because like I said, this is the first day. We're not in the nitty gritty of things, but just know that if we do propose multiple names, we only can propose 4. So next bullet point, decide how to evaluate the public input. We got comments and we got proposals. I want to let you all know, because of our lack of face-to-face meetings, we haven't disclosed anyone's names or any committee members' names. Also, that's something we can talk about. If you feel comfortable letting people in your network know that you're part of the committee and how they can get involved and things like that, feel free to do so. But at this moment, everyone's anonymous as committee members. And I only say that because if you want to bring and push that if you want to push your role or your involvement in the committee to bring your network of public people and people who care about this renaming process and show them how their voice can be heard, feel free to do so. And also with that, I'm just curious to think about other ways and hear from committee members, how outside of what we already have established, can we get public input?
Julian, I have on that topic of us bringing, people who might be passionate about this or have ideas about this. Are there any concerns and
6 o'clock.
maybe this, I don't know if you can answer this, of possible conflicts of interest here of board members who are committee members here right now who made comments that are on that sheet that are directly, we're going to be talking about. And I have a little bit of a concern about some of those things when we're discussing looking at all of these names and research that has been done on them, and comments have been made against one of the names that has been proposed on there. So
Right.
if, all of us have opinions. I have no problem with that. But I guess I'm a little bit concerned about that when viewed in the public realm.
Right.
Ron, I think it might help if, well, I guess I think I want to phrase it this way. Do we know that everyone on this call has remained impartial and not made public comments to the website or the email?
Can everyone hear me still?
Yeah, I can hear you. Yeah.
I have a comment that's on there before I knew I was doing this committee or committed to it. It's probably one sentence. It's not, I don't know. I feel like we all will come in impartial, open-minded, as I feel that I am, but also with hopes and wishes as well. I'm not sure that that my comment would be something you wouldn't learn in the first couple hours of me, sharing thoughts. But at the same time, I would hope that people who made comments, as I consider myself, to be open-minded to hearing other thoughts and considering them in terms of the whole perspective of the decision-making, that the decision is not made until we take all our opinions into account, knowing that we all come in with them. But yeah, I can see why this would be brought up. When I was reading the comments, I was like, oh, I have a comment in there. Like, I forgot that I even made the comment. And so it's kind of funny.
Do you feel comfortable sharing with us what you said as committee members so we can just kind of talk through this?
Yes. So I said, I actually don't have it pulled up. I already closed that tab, but it was something to the effect of, that I was in favor of, someone of color who's been a leader and role model to students, be someone who the school is named after. Now, I haven't read all the proposals, but after hearing all of them, I'm curious if I'll still feel the same way, but that was my initial reaction. And when it asked for comments, I really wasn't sure if people were wanting to know thoughts from different staff members. And again, not knowing my influence here, I was like, oh, well, I'll make my, opinion known. But again, coming in terms of all of you, you might say, well, your mind's made up. And I could say, it really isn't, but I come in with the same presumptions that we all do. And so I look forward to hearing other perspectives on the same issue. But I want to be transparent about that.
And Lynn, I think you brought up a great point. Ron, I think you asked a great question. I just want to interject and say that, all of these things collectively is what's going to be able to bring us to a conclusion. Whether you land on this side of the fence or that side of the fence, all of those inputs and opinions are valid and they're appreciated. The comment thing, like I said, it's been a process, and all of us, while we're committee members, we're also stakeholders in a sense, and we all have opinions and relations to this name change and to the school in general. So that's a great question, and I think that all opinions and all perspectives are going to be very beneficial in this journey.
I want to let me make one comment. I'm not on the committee, I'm the researcher. I did make a comment, so I want to be transparent on that. But as a librarian and an archivist, that is not going to influence the research I did, and I made sure that it did not. But I do want to acknowledge that I made a comment, and then I'll back out again.
Gail, I appreciate you saying that, but I actually have concerns about that, about the impartiality of the research. If your feelings are so strong about one of the potential names and people in the list, I really am concerned about that.
Have you looked at the research to it? I'm a professional librarian and an archivist, so I often do research all the time about which I may have different feelings about. As a professional, it does not influence the research that I provide on it. But if you look through that folder, I maybe that will help you or not. That's up, but I appreciate your comment on that.
And Gail, I just want to say, thank you for that. Cynthia and I are former journalists, so with you saying that, then I completely accept that. More so, do I have a connection to the people, other people in this? Yes, I know the Dahman boys. I'm very good friends with them. So, that is, that could be considered in the public view an issue with however I'm going to vote. And so I guess that's more of my concern with whatever the outcome of this is, what is going to be said about this committee and how we decided things based on our connections afterwards. Does that really matter? No.
One thing I'll say is, one, we have to have an open mind, but two, each proposal, each name will go through the exact same steps. Nothing will be presented in a manner where there's biasness or a leg up over the others. Now, when we come to our proposals or what we bring, the public and everyone who's viewing these live YouTubes and these recorded Zoom calls will be able to see the steps and the processes we went through and how consistent they were with each name, how we voted on them, and how we came to what we came to. So that'll kind of offset some of those things, because they'll see that there was no favoritism showed. There's a list of 12 committee members, all with different backgrounds, a diverse group, and each name was presented, equally. So hopefully that'll have people, that'll kind of rest some of those concerns for the public, but also kind of rest some of those concerns for what I'm hearing from committee members, because we all are some way affiliated with Memorial, and people who have family members on this list or other people who have relations to Memorial And so we have, it just naturally, you know, you're gonna have some type of feelings because of those relationships. But kind of what Len was alluding to, we have to come to this with open mind. Perspectives may change as we hear each other speak and talk. And like I said, each proposal will be vetted this exact same way, regardless of how many proposals they had, regardless of how many comments they have, regardless of what the infographic shows. We have to do our due diligence and continue to be equitable with each name.
I
Thank you
have
for that.
to.
Yeah. Gail,
I-
I just wanted to say, I want to say, Gail, thank you for all the work you did on the research. And I also, as a former journalist, to Ron's point, fully accept your ability to have an opinion and also remain impartial with research. So I want to make sure that my gratitude towards you for doing all of that is expressed. And I just hope as a committee, we can agree and hold one another accountable for being transparent, you know, about those types of things.
I appreciate that. I'm also not on the committee per se, you know, so I don't make a decision.
Yep, no,
So,
I hear you.
Yeah. Enough
Barb,
said.
I think I have a problem, and I have to be honest with this committee, and I will take whatever the committee wants to render as an opinion. As I alluded to earlier, there was a proposal that was not listed. The reason that I know it was submitted is it was mine. And I will be completely honest in that I was submitting it basically to make sure that the committee saw it. At that point in time, I had absolutely no desire to be on the committee, had no intention to be on the committee. And I just wanted to make sure that the petition was put forth so that the committee could look at it and know that it was there and put it in. That being said, I truly at that point in time had not read any of the names, did not plan on being on the committee, but I have to be very honest in that my submission is not there. And I know that I put it in. I know how I put it in. I know it was done correctly on the website. And, you know, like I said, I completely would understand anybody on the committee's feeling. Again, I have not made up my mind with what the name should be changed to, or even if it should be changed. But I think I need to be honest in that I did submit a proposal and it is not there.
So now, I think that's more of a, Barbara, I know you'll get to that and you guys will have a separate conversation about that. But my question for you is, how do you feel about that submission now? Because do you want that to be a part of the proposal? Was that just something that you were filling in? Because I think that answer has a lot of merit on how we move forward. If you want that proposal to be included, then we'll have to figure out what we do in terms of your role as a committee member. If that was something that you no longer feel is relevant and you still have this open mind that's impartial, then, you know, we would love to keep things as is. So how do you feel about that, Jackie?
To be honest with you, I truly meant that I was just wanting to make sure that people on the committee were aware of the petition. And if I was left on the committee, I would just bring it up when that name is discussed, because the name is one of the proposed names. But that being said, I truly have not made up my mind in terms of which name, if any name change, I would go for. I'm fairly open-minded in terms of looking at the evidence and seeing what other people think.
Julian, I appreciate your question. Did anyone else on this committee submit proposed names? Because
Probably
if
not.
Maya, who made the original proposal, cannot appear on the committee because of conflict of interest, I would then maybe raise the same question around, again, and Jackie, I love you dearly for being transparent. I think maybe that's what Julian was alluding to here. If someone proposed a name, should they be on the committee? Because Maya was not allowed to be on the committee because she had brought forth the proposal.
All right.
And again, that's why I brought up that the proposal wasn't there, is because I did share the petition on Facebook. I know several of you are Facebook friends with me. You may have seen it. And I did not want to be dishonest about it.
And I'm sorry, I was having some internet connections. I missed some of that, but yeah, I think we just need to have a separate conversation. You, Barbara, and I, we just kind of got to figure out, because we want to make sure all proposals are heard and heard fairly. And if that's something that you're passionate about, we need to make sure that we get proposals pre-submitted, added to the list, and so we can vet it through its criteria stage, like we're doing with the rest of the names.
That's why I was asking the question earlier, how you looked at comments and how Day Job and things was thrown out, because I was wondering if, because I was bringing the attention to a petition, if it was considered a comment. I really didn't know. And that's why I said I would ask for clarification later.
And this is definitely a Barbara question. And I know she'll address it. My question for you is, you're 100% certain you submitted an official proposal and it wasn't just a petition?
Yes, sir.
Okay, well.
I did it via the website, and I was not sure of the link, but I researched the link out through several people. So I know I did submit it. If it wasn't submitted properly, I have to be honest that I did submit a proposal because I wanted the committee to be able to see the petition.
Perfect.
And again, it's actually, you know, I haven't made up my mind with the name, but I feel like you deserve to know from the get-go.
Mm-hmm.
And also I have a concern as to who else may have submitted a proposal that's not there.
Right. Thanks for the transparency, and thanks for that, because those aren't something that we want to skip over. Barbara, you and I have to talk and figure out how we can address this situation and what went wrong with Jackie's proposal.
Yes, we will. Thank you.
I have a question, Julian. Is it okay if I hop in at this point, or?
Oh, yeah, feel free. Perfect. Yeah.
Well, one question I had, and this comes more from a staff perspective, especially as a coach, knowing some of the logistics that we would have to deal with the name change, is I'm wondering, and Barb, maybe this is a question for you. Are we able to decide that whatever name is selected, whether we keep it or we get a new one, that Memorial can remain part of the name, recognizing that that's really the piece? I mean, I'm listening to everybody tonight and everybody's referring Memorial. On the website, it says the Memorial community.
Mm-hmm.
I think that is one of the driving pieces. And to get into logistics, when I started doing some calculations with coaches and we started thinking about even purchasing new uniforms and things like that, we're in the $600,000 to $700,000 range when it comes to rebranding, if we move away from Memorial, right? And so I just didn't know what this committee was thinking about that, if that's something we can decide separate of a name, recognizing that anything could go in front of, not that it doesn't matter, but that anything could go in front of Memorial, and that would be a piece of continuity for a community that I know that's really how we identify ourselves. So I didn't know where we were at with maybe that, as well as the logistical financial piece. And
I have my own thoughts on that. I'm sure everyone does. And that's a great comment to bring to light. I think that's more of a meeting two kind of thing. And I'm writing that down in my notes because that's more of a naming thing. But that's definitely something, that's valid. That's a very good point. Even to this day, I tell people I went to Memorial. James Madison is one thing, but Memorial is recognized as Memorial pretty popularly around, not even just the city, but the state. So great thing to bring awareness to, and I'm definitely writing that down in my notes. So at the next meeting, we can kind of talk about that and then move forward with some of the proposals.
Yeah, has the district done any research on the cost of a name change, to Amber's point? Because outside of athletic uniforms, signage, letters, yearbooks, do we have any information on that available to us on this committee by chance?
We do not, because this is probably our first high school rename in quite some time. So even if we had data on it, it would be too old. So yes, that is something that administration can provide some kind of estimate on that for sure for the committee's consideration.
I think Amber, I kind of had the same question. I just I didn't know when we would bring it up. So I'm glad you did.
And I mean, for me, correct me if I'm wrong, my thought is, with those estimates and those numbers, I don't and this is my first committee. This is my first renaming committee, let me say. But with those numbers cause a bit of biasness, like we're all tax-paying people. And let's say we get this estimate and it's so high and we're like, oh, why are our dollars going here? Like, do you see that being a conflict? Because now we're not worried about the name change and the merit and the validity of the people about it. Now it becomes financial for some of us, and we could be, have a negative feeling towards what this estimated cost might be. So that's just my thought on hearing estimates and things like that, because it's really something separate from the actual renaming of the high school, in my opinion.
Can I interject one
Oh,
thing?
Yep, Eliana, go ahead.
Sorry. So I had been discussing this with some people also, and the thing that I think also kind of plays into this that we may or may not be fully realizing is that Memorial is getting almost completely rebuilt in the coming 2 years. So all of the discussion about scoreboards and like flooring and everything, doesn't that, like, I just feel like that should be kind of a different conversation than the athletics, because that will all be happening anyways. And if the name changes, it'll still be the same cost to paint green on the floor in an M versus in a W or whatever we decide to do. So I think that the cost is an important thing to kind of talk about, but I sort of agree with what Julian was saying, is that I don't think that the cost should be determining what we're changing, because like, yes, everyone on this committee, perhaps with the exception of me, is a tax-paying individual, but like that kind of to me leans on the side of placing money above our children and above what we're putting this forward to represent. So I think that before we look at those statements and estimates, we definitely should have kind of a conversation about what the priority is with the renaming.
And Sean, I saw you had a question. I'm just letting the committee know before I'm taking a note, and at our next meeting we can take a vote on if that's even necessary information that we want to consider moving forward. So with that being said, go ahead, Sean.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention before we got a little bit too far away from it, I also did submit a public comment, and I submitted my public comment before I was asked to be on the committee. And so sort of similarly to Len, I had a personal opinion that I submitted, but again, I'm open as a, in service to the community. I view that as a different role than just my own personal opinion, but I just wanted to make sure that I let y'all know since we were having a discussion about that.
Are you comfortable telling us what your comment was?
I don't remember exactly what I said. It's on the document, so you can feel free to read about it. But basically okay. I'm going to continue. Okay. Basically, in summary, I said something to the effect of that I liked the proposal. I referenced being a history teacher and how I think it's important to, be thoughtful about our history. And I'm not sure exactly what else I put in it, but like I said, it's there.
Thank you for your transparency, Sean.
And I do want to say in response to Eliana and to Julian, which it's important. The reason I bring up the finances piece is because we are responsible to the taxpayers, right? And so if we can do something that acknowledges that while still allows for the name change, and by keeping Memorial, regardless of what comes before it, that not only honors taxpayers and the amounts they've already paid, and especially toward this renovation, but I think it will also be a unifying thing for the broader Memorial community. So I agree that the name change in many ways needs to happen separate from any conversations about dollars and cents. But we also have to recognize that it can't be totally separate because the community isn't going to view it that way. And because I think there is a practical way to meet in the middle where really we can do this with next to no cost, maintain a continuity, right, with the Memorial concept, and then give due credit and time and attention and diligence to the name that comes in front of Memorial itself.
Perfect.
Just a point of order that the chairperson has to recognize the next person to speak, just so that we don't have people speaking over each other. Thank you very much.
Barbara, can you go back to reshare the screen for our discussion points? We kind of talked about decide on how many names to bring forward, so we don't have to revisit that. Considering the timeline for the memorial community, what are thoughts on that? When do you guys think we should submit our names, however many, to the board? When would you guys like to have this done? Before people go, I would just like to say I'm in favor of having 2 meetings a month. And I want people to kind of consider that when thinking about their timeline. And I would propose, the second and the fourth, whatever day of the week, but the second and fourth weeks of the month. And I'm open to that change, first or third, second and third, back-to-back weeks, whatever. But I think that two meetings a month is probably what we need to do to get this thing done in a timely manner. And with that being said, Barbara, you can stop sharing your screen so I can see everyone. And then as people raise their hand, I can call on them for discussion. Go ahead, Eliana.
Before we move into scheduling, I had one more comment about the public input section, if that's okay.
Yep.
So as a student at Memorial, I found it kind of shocking that a lot of people that I've talked to didn't even really know that this was like a thing that was going on in our school imminently. So I'm wondering if, in terms of getting public input, would it be possible for like Mr. Hendrickson, our principal, or the board to send an email out to every student that just says like, here's what's going on. Feel free to leave your comments here or something, so that we can make sure that we're hearing from the students in addition to just their parents and families.
Barbara, can we make that happen?
You bet.
Okay, perfect. I'll write that down on my notes. So you would just like a email to be sent to current students, correct?
Yeah, so like we get the weekly family communication during the year, and we just got a June email about like speed and strength and all the things like that that are going on. And if it could just be kind of something like that, so that everyone in the school is at least aware of what's going on, that would be great, I think. Thank you.
We have other avenues that we can use as well. We just need to get off the ground, so we'll do that. Thank you.
Cynthia, I saw you had your hand, and then we'll go to you, Jackie.
No, I was just saying, yeah, I'm in agreement to the 2 meetings a month.
Okay. Jackie?
I'm just wondering, is there a reason we're doing this via Zoom versus in person? Because I think it's going to be a lot easier to have a discussion over documents if we're all looking at the same thing on a big screen. This is really frustrating.
Yeah, when we're working towards that, Barbara and I have to discuss that. I don't know what liability is on the school board and things like that. We haven't mandated everyone to get vaccinated. So I think just more so out of being conscious and respectable of people's decisions regarding COVID, we just kind of stuck to the Zoom. We didn't want to have a meeting and then, someone contract the virus and then it fall back on the school board for, this is a lot of things, semantic things that we just got to kind of discuss and make sure that everyone's safe and everyone's personal preference is respected in terms of gathering and carrying out our due diligence to this process. Frank?
The Board of Education right now is not, the buildings are still closed, and we are not, so we are not having public people into the board meetings yet. The board members are in person in 103. But we do know the vaccination status of everybody there. So so we are not actually open to being in person completely yet. And that the district position has not changed on that yet.
Frank?
Yeah, thinking about the meeting cadence, and could I get a point of clarification on the rubric? Is that something that we can start filling in offline, or are we going to fill out that rubric?
So yeah,
In
I
the
think
group
I
session?
think in kind of where I was going to go towards the conclusion of this discussion portion of our meeting was to kind of see what people's climate was on, if I say fill out a rubric for pages 1 through 3 of the proposals, or the first 2 pages, or the first one before our next meeting, and so that we can have those filled out and reference those, and then kind of go through that meeting by meeting, see what people, because we don't know what all that entails yet. Like I said, everyone has lives outside of this. We don't know how long and tedious it'll be. So I was going to come around to that. But I mean, I think all this is the same kind of discussion in terms of timing. I wanted to ask, is 5 o'clock good for people? Do we need to do it early? I mean, for me personally, if we don't like 5, it will have to be later. I can't do anything before 5. So I'm open to just times, and then days of the week. It seems like everyone's okay with 2 times a month, but I could be wrong. If anyone's opposed to two meetings a month, please speak now. Matthew, go ahead. Can anyone hear Matthew? I think you're muted, Matthew. Or maybe it's your Bluetooth. Try it one more time, Matthew. I'm still not hearing you yet. There you are.
All right. Sorry. Sometimes it screws up with the headphones, and I had to adjust off the audio. I'd like to propose maybe an alternate way to go about this. No matter what, it's going to take time.
Yeah.
Something, and I'm particularly thinking through the process we had with the Police Policy and Procedure Ad Hoc Committee, where we went through hundreds of recommendations and talked through each one. One of the first things that we really did, though, was we had our own rubrics. But before we went through discussing everything, we ranked everything. We graded everything through the rubrics. And then we discussed it. I would propose having us sit down over maybe waiting a full month or a month and a half for our next meeting to give us time to sit down for each and every single one of us to go through and fill out the rubrics for every single name proposal. And then we would submit those to potentially Barbara or whoever would go through, and then we'd have all of that aggregated and there, and we have everybody ranked, all the names ranked, not everybody, but all the names ranked through the rubrics. And then we go back, and each meeting is going to be us then covering and talking about those names instead of having every couple of meetings where we go through it. So this way we get a totality look at everybody. It becomes a little bit easier, I think, to discuss stuff, because we're not going to know how we might rank somebody later. When we're just kind of starting through the process, and so it becomes easier to start comparing and contrasting and kind of shifting and winnowing through all the names when we go through the rubrics all at once and have those numbers there as we're talking about everybody and moving through it.
I think that's a very good proposal. I think my question is, I just want to make sure that everyone, because I think that that's a good idea. So you're saying, just for clarity, to go through the whole list individually, all 77 proposals, and come back with a rubric completed for all the proposals from each committee member.
Yeah, and then that could be all those numbers could then be placed on a spreadsheet or whatever. We would submit those, so that would be, and then we could all see kind of an aggregate score of everything, like averages, and we could talk through why we rank somebody that way, or if we even at that point there might be some that didn't meet a certain level of standard, and we could just cut those names out and not even have to discuss them. If there's some that just obviously look like absolutely no, and everybody universally absolutely no. And so then we don't even discuss those. Well, others we might. I think it could create a richer discussion.
Right.
We're talking about folks. There might even be some that rubric average came down, and we're talking through, and it I don't know. It just changes everything, and I think it creates something a little bit deeper.
Okay. What do you propose if someone, say life happens and because the meeting is so far off, we get to our next meeting and some people haven't completed a a rubric for every proposal? Do we just continue with the averages, or what would be the suggestion that we do then? Because I guess, that would be my only fear or caution, is that we don't put this thing too far off just because life happens.
Yeah, I mean, that's why I feel like the next, like maybe like the end of August, right? So not like September, but maybe give an extra week or something like that, or give a full month.
Okay.
But at the same time, I there's always going to be the risk of somebody not completing a rubrics, no matter what it is, because of life.
Right.
So even if it's every other week, that I can imagine there's going to be a risk in that, right? Because that's a time frame. So no matter what, there's gonna be that risk. So I think with that said, we move forward with the best information we have. If somebody didn't do it, somebody didn't do it. And,
Okay.
and we move forward with what is.
How do committee members feel about Matthew's proposal? I got a thumbs up from Sean. Okay. So
I do
everyone's
want to
okay.
mention, Julian, that I could be the gatekeeper, and I could, remind people about submitting and try to keep things going too.
Okay.
I would appreciate, okay, can I talk, Julian? I just wanted to.
Yeah, you can go ahead, man.
In supporting what Matthew brought up, I just consider myself a little bit behind on tech. So Barbara, if maybe after the first couple submissions, you could give each member a heads up or thumbs up, like you did it right. So I don't submit a whole bunch of them and realize I did them all wrong. Just to have that confirmation going forward before I invest a lot of hours. I'm a slow reader, and I want to be able to just know that the time is gonna, rubber's gonna hit the road and it's gonna get done.
Happy to do that.
Sean, did you have your hand up, or were you just agreeing?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I think, given that they're on each name out of 77 names, you're just deciding 0, 1, or 2, right?
Yeah.
You don't have to put comments for every single proposal necessarily, right? So you could make it fairly quick work if you wanted to. And certainly for some of those duplicates, it's going to be like, okay, same thing that the other person said, and you'll be able to make your way through it. So I really support this idea. I think it's going to be efficient, and I think that it also gives us time to do, as we were talking about, as Eliana was saying, to reach out to our networks, to other students, to get further public comment, and so I like that workflow.
Perfect. Jackie?
The only thing that I would suggest is, for your sanity, Julian, and also Barb's, that you ask the committee that as they fill out a page, that they submit it, so that you have a tangible, yes, somebody is working on it, or no, they've disappeared, so that you aren't waiting until the very end to find out that all of a sudden, like Len said, something's doing it wrong, or somebody's just not doing it at all.
Thank you.
Thank you for that. Eliana?
Just a clarifying question real quick. So we would spend the month or the month and a half reading just the proposals and ranking just those, and then the research is like on our own time for discussion purposes, or am I misunderstanding something?
No, you have it. So the research is kind of familiarized with each individual and why they're a person of interest, their notoriety and things of that nature, as well as the comments that kind of try to weigh on what some of the climate is surrounding the names and what the community is feeling regarding this whole process. But the actual proposals are what we're asking you to focus on and actually vet through that rubric. Those other things are, in addition, those are supplemental things to kind of help you gauge, your opinions and what you feel is best fit for Memorial.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry.
Go ahead, Matthew.
Yeah, because sorry, I'm not making that. It's just like, move through the rubrics, and then we would go through like if there's people want to cut and move through the duplicate process, and then when we get to the names of, like, when we move through the duplicate process or move through like obvious no's, you'd get to that, and then we get to the discussion point, and then that's where that research would really come in, is when you get to the discussion points, because again, there might be something that ranks higher than somebody else, but through discussion we might put somebody on a finalist that is ranking lower number wise, right, through rubrics, than that other, because that's really just kind of moving to the discussion list through the rubrics.
Agreed. Jackie, did you raise your hand again? Okay. Frank?
Yeah, just logistically, is the rubric in a format that we can type in? I recollect it's a PDF.
I can definitely send it to you in Word format.
That'd be great. Thank you.
Okay, perfect. So we'll get that out to you guys in Word format. Lynn, go ahead.
Matthew, you might have just commented on this, and I apologize if I missed it. I can see myself learning through this, becoming aware of the exact things we all hope to become aware of in terms of different perspectives on this, and strengths and weaknesses of different names, and etc. And I can see myself filling out the rubric, getting 30 or 40 in and saying, I wish I could adjust what I voted on for that one 20 rubrics ago. And so I know that as school staff, we're used to working in Google Docs where something's a live document, where you can go and you can make live changes until it's time not to do it. But then I also heard Word document just mentioned. So yeah, I was just wondering, what are people's thoughts on that?
So Jackie was kind of saying something along the lines of people submitting their proposals as they finish the rubric, so that we're making sure they're doing it right, but also so we're holding people accountable. And then Frank asked for the rubrics to be sent in Word format, so that instead of printing out a bunch of empty rubrics, he can actually type in his thing and go through the criteria via the computer. And then with the Google Live, I think that's a good suggestion in terms of if you need that, just to make sure that we're looking over it and correcting it, or just giving feedback. That's something that Barbara and I can certainly discuss to make sure that nobody's doubling back around and has wasted a bunch of time doing the rubrics wrong. Go ahead, Frank.
Yeah, may I recommend maybe Excel, so that it's auto totaling, and then we don't, in Word, we don't have to go through and count it up. That way, no errors. It auto counts and, takes away any mistakes.
You guys are gonna make Barbara not work, huh?
Yeah. Yeah, that extra, math, add.
They'll save y'all on the back end in Excel.
Yeah. I'm joking. We'll definitely figure it out and make sure that it's just easy to kind of navigate, and so that we have all the numbers added correctly and things like that. Lynn?
So am I hearing that it's okay that we make adjustments to our rubric choices all the way up until we say we're done with rubrics? In other words, I fill out the rubric 0 through 2 and the 4 or 5 criteria.
Right.
And then I can go back and make adjustments to that as I learn more all the way up until it's done. Or are we saying once you hand it in, man, you can't touch it?
I think it's more so once you hand it in, you can't touch it. Just because if we have all these changes, then we'll have all these. If there's 12 people making changes consistently, then we'll never have concrete information to kind of. But if I guess that's something that we can discuss, Barbara, now, because if it's through Excel and it's changing as you make it before all the averages are conducted, then I don't see a problem with it. But it would just have to kind of be a timeline that we create so that we make sure everyone's information is accounted for accurately. Sean, and then you, Matthew.
Excuse me, Julian. Can I have the
Go ahead,
floor for a second?
Go ahead, Barbara.
Okay, so one thing I need to clarify is that members of the committee cannot see or talk about their work with each other than right here. So whatever you submit can only be submitted to me and Julian. And we're the only people that can see it or do anything with it. So I just want to make sure it doesn't matter to me what kind of format you use, Google Docs or whatever. Excel spreadsheet, great idea. So we can automate whatever we can automate. I'm totally in on that. But yeah, we just have to make sure that you guys are doing all your work in the public realm. And that's just the point I needed to make. Thank you.
I was going to say something similar. So thank you, Barbara.
Okay. And then Matthew, you good? Everyone good on this topic? Barbara, can you share your screen one more time, please?
Yes.
Okay, we don't really need to address that. So we're gonna meet. Does Wednesday work for everyone? It's 5 o'clock. Okay, you get on because I guess it's this next one we're going to right now, proposed schedule for future meetings.
So this is just a draft timeline that I put up for the previous meeting as a sample.
Yeah,
But you are,
people can visit that on there.
yeah, can do whatever you want.
I guess my question, yeah, so I mean, you can unshare your screen now so I can see everyone. Right now we're Wednesdays at 5. Talk to me about that. What days of the week, time. Everyone good? If 5 on Wednesdays are fine for you, thumbs up. Go ahead, Frank.
Yeah, I wonder if we could do a first and third Wednesday of the month at 5, or whatever, some regular cadence, as opposed just to make it easier.
So if we do that first and third, everyone first and third, is that okay? So then I think that'll put us, okay, we'll do. So should we just do the first week in September, then that first Wednesday in September?
I was like, maybe just the third of August. So that gives so that gives us like one whole month and a couple weeks.
All right, cool. Third week in August.
So everyone will have to submit their materials as they go, right? They can submit as they go, or do we have just one final deadline for everybody to submit?
I think that people, we have the final deadline for people to submit, but somehow you and I have to, send out communications or kind of reach out to people to make sure that they're doing it right, or make sure that questions and stuff are being addressed so that people aren't filling out the rubrics incorrectly, and just to kind of check in with people, make sure, that this is in the back of their mind, in addition to all the other day-to-day things they have going on. So right now we are looking at August 18th at 5 p.m. And we would like to have all the proposals graded and put through the rubric. Amber, you got?
Yeah, sorry, it's the teacher and me. I just want to make sure I'm doing this correctly. So will you and Barbara be sending out an Excel form or a Google Spreadsheets form that you would like us to use, or do you want us to create one on our own and then send that to you from there?
We'll create it.
So Cynthia's hand up, and then Lynn. So go ahead, Cynthia.
I am trying to take copious notes. However, is there going to be a follow-up email to this meeting with minutes by chance and our action items, just to make sure we don't miss anything?
Yes, we'll kind of highlight what we need to have done, and what you guys' responsibilities will be before our next meeting.
Clarifying, you said the 18th is the next date of the meeting, or the 18th is the final date to finish your
August 18th is the date we would like you to have your rubrics completed, but that's also going to be our next meeting, so that they're one and the same. Now, before we adjourn this meeting, I just want to kind of wrap up some things and hear comments and kind of discuss it, just to make sure I have everything written down accurately. First, on my notes is Jackie's proposal. Barbara, we kind of have to reach back out to her individually and see what the climate is on that, because if that's something that we want to have added to our list, not only do we have to make sure we have that submitted properly, but then we have to talk about an alternate committee member. Jackie, is that accurate? Okay, so we're good on that. Second. Okay, go ahead, Jackie.
If it's fine with you, what I will do is email the petition to you and Barb tomorrow, and you can take a look at it and decide from there. And again, I'm totally fine with whatever you decide.
Perfect. And I think it's more of a conversation too, because if it's something that you really think, or we really want to propose, we want to make sure that you have that respect. So we'll definitely chat about that through email communications, and it might even be a phone call between the three of us.
That's fine.
Secondly, I have for the meeting in August, everyone just kind of think about just adding memorial to the name, regardless of who's before it, whether it's a change or not, how we feel about just keeping memorial. Third, Thirdly, I have that we need to kind of talk about estimates. So for our meeting in August, kind of think about what your stance is on that, of if it's important or pertinent information to know how much it'll cost to do all this, if a rename is approved, and see what your preference is and what your opinions are on that. Fourth, we need to send out a communication and create something so that the current JMM students are aware of what's going on, and so that they can be engaged, and so that their comments and their opinions can be considered through this process as well. And lastly, I had in-person meetings, but as the district changes, if things come about where we can meet in person, we'll send out communications to see comfortability and make changes as necessary. But other than that, those are the 5 things that I had taken notes on over the course of our meeting. There'll be a communication that's probably sent out within the next couple of days that highlights, what we discussed in terms of what we are looking forward for you to do before our August 18th meeting. It'll also highlight that we've agreed to meet on August 18th and what you should have completed prior to that date. And with that being said, go ahead, Eliana.
If I have a couple more things to maybe suggest in terms of student communication, should I just email you and Barb directly?
Yes.
Cool. Thank you.
Jackie? Jackie, did you have something? Did you raise your hand?
Sorry. Can you also forward the same request that you're making for Ileana to the students to the JMM PTSO?
PTSO?
Yeah.
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? Put your hand up if you have any questions or comments. Looks like everyone is okay. Great first meeting, guys. It was great putting face to names. Appreciate everyone's input and their willingness to communicate, the respect that we have for one another, and some of the discussions that we have. Let's continue to build on that as we continue to move this train forward. And if there are no other questions or concerns, at 7:49, I move that we adjourn this meeting.
Second.
Meeting adjourned. You guys have a great evening.
Sorry,
Thanks,
I
Thank
need
you.
to know who made the
everyone.
second. Tell me who made the second.
Frank.
Frank, thank you so much.
Second.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you,
Yep, thanks,
everyone.
everyone. Thanks,
Have a
Barbara.
great evening.
Take care.